English Elite Podcast.
It's, let's say, January 2nd, or maybe it's the first Monday of the month. You have that brand new notebook, right? The spine hasn't even been cracked yet.
Oh, yeah.
You've downloaded the language app. You've paid for the premium subscription. And you have this surge of electricity, this absolute certainty that this time you're going to master French or learn Python or whatever it is.
It's the famous fresh start effect. It is a very, very intoxicating feeling.
It is. It feels amazing. You feel like a new person already.
Mm-hmm.
But then Tuesday happens.
Right.
Or your kid gets sick. Or work runs late. And that notebook just stays on the nightstand. The app starts setting those passive-aggressive notifications. Duo misses you. And you just swipe them away with this, I don't know, this vague sense of guilt. Why are we so good at the starting line, but we never seem to finish the race?
It's the universal struggle. And I think, frankly, it's because our entire definition of the word discipline is completely broken.
Yeah.
We're just using the wrong map.
Well, today we are going to try and fix that map. We've got a really fascinating piece of source material. It's not a bestseller or some famous self-help book. It's actually a set of internal guidelines, a curriculum document called Mastering the Daily Habit, Discipline for English Learners.
And we're looking specifically at the methodology behind something called the English Elite Podcast and their Day 6 module.
Exactly.
And what caught my attention immediately with this document is that it is surprisingly counterintuitive. It takes everything we think we know about, hustle culture and grinding, and it just throws it in the trash.
It really does. I mean, when I hear the word discipline, I have a very specific image in my head.
A drill sergeant.
A drill sergeant. I think of 4 a.m. alarms. I think of yelling. I think of, David Goggins carrying a log up a mountain or something.
Right. No pain, no gain.
Exactly. Suffering equals progress. But this source material, it argues for something completely different. It pushes for what it calls a warm, grounded approach. It explicitly says that discipline isn't about harshness. It's about sustainable human consistency.
And that's the key word right there. Sustainable. The source introduces us to these two specific personas. They're basically the audio guides for the method named Alex and Sophia.
And their character profiles, they're not your typical teachers, are they?
Not at all.
No, they aren't. And I want to dig into this because it seemed a little soft at first glance. The source outlines Alex as having a male voice that is calm, thoughtful, confident, and friendly. Okay, fine. But then Sophia is the female voice, and she's described as warm, encouraging, relatable, and this is the key, emotionally intelligent.
Emotionally intelligent.
Right. That's not a phrase I usually associate with a guidebook for learning grammar. Usually it's just subject, verb, object, and a list of irregular verbs. Why does a language curriculum need emotional intelligence? It feels a bit fluffy.
It sounds fluffy, doesn't it? But if you look at why they included it, it makes perfect sense. The source material explicitly contrasts this with that drill sergeant model we just talked about.
Okay.
Think about it. If you're struggling with a difficult concept on day 6, say, the past perfect continuous tense, and you have a voice in your ear that is cold or academic or demanding, what happens to your brain?
Oh, I get stressed. I feel stupid. I shut down.
Exactly. Your cortisol levels go up. And in linguistics, we talk about the affective filter. When your anxiety is high, that filter goes up and new information just can't get in.
It bounces right off.
It bounces right off.
Yeah.
So by designing Sophia to be warm, encouraging, and relatable, they aren't just trying to be nice. They are actually engineering the audio environment so your brain stays open to the information.
So it's not just about being friendly. It's a learning tactic. It's about hacking the learner's anxiety so the grammar actually sticks.
Precisely. The document says the interaction should model a natural conversation. It's supposed to feel like you already know them. This lowers the stakes. If you feel safe with the voices in your ear, you're way less likely to quit when you make a mistake.
And that leads us to what I think is the core argument of this whole thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, this was a massive aha moment for me. It redefines discipline by totally separating it from perfectionism. The text explicitly says discipline is not about being perfect.
It seems obvious when you say it out loud, but think about how we actually behave.
Oh, I know how I behave. If I'm on a diet and I eat one cookie, I just go, well, ruin that. Might as well eat the whole box.
That's the all or nothing trap. We equate discipline with a perfect streak, the tyranny of the streak. But this source says no. Discipline is not about never failing. It's about what you do after you fail.
I love that. And the instructions in the document literally tell the guides, Alex and Sophia, to admit their own struggles. They have to keep it human and honest. They have to talk about things like the struggle of simply waking up early, or the temptation to just scroll through your phone instead of studying.
Which is so rare in educational material. Usually the teacher is presented as this flawless expert who, I don't know, lives in a library. But here, they are showing you that the struggle is the discipline.
Right. And they make a really sharp distinction between motivation and discipline. I think most people use those words interchangeably, but this text argues they're actually opposites.
They're completely different mechanisms. The text says motivation comes and goes.
Yeah.
That's that January 2nd feeling. It's an emotion. It's a chemical spike.
It's a sugar rush. It feels great, but it crashes fast.
Exactly. But the text defines discipline as what stays even when motivation disappears. And that is such a profound shift.
So,
It means that when you don't feel like doing it, when you are tired, when you are bored, that is actually the moment when discipline begins.
so if I'm excited to do it, that's not discipline.
According to this view, no, that's just having fun. That's a hobby. Discipline is doing it on a Tuesday night when you have a headache and you'd rather just watch Netflix. If you do it then, even badly, that is the victory.
That's actually really liberating because I always thought that if I wasn't, pumped to do my work, something was wrong with me. Like I'd lost my passion. But this suggests that not being pumped is just normal.
It's inevitable. And this brings us to the tone of the content itself. The source material has a very specific rule that I found fascinating. It says, avoid an overly motivational shouting tone.
No shouting. But how will I know to hustle if no one is yelling at me over aggressive techno music?
That's the culture we're all used to. High energy, go, go, go. But the analysis here suggests that high-intensity hype is actually unsustainable. It burns you out. It's like sprinting. You can't sprint a marathon.
You'd collapse by mile 2.
Exactly. The source mandates a relaxed but focused tone. Why? Because if you are trying to build a daily habit for the next year, you need a pace you can actually live with. You need a pace that fits into your actual messy life, not some fantasy life where you have infinite energy.
Okay, speaking of fitting it into a messy life, let's talk about the mechanics. Because the English Elite method has a very specific metric for success. And I have to be honest, when I read it, I was a little skeptical.
The time limit.
Yes. The source says, doing something for 10 minutes every day is better than doing nothing. And later it suggests studying for just 15 minutes. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here. 15 minutes.
It sounds too easy.
It sounds like a marketing gimmick.
Fair.
Learn French in 15 minutes a day.
Can you actually learn a complex language or really master any difficult skill in just 15 minutes a day? It feels a little light.
I had the same reaction at first. I mean, mathematically, 15 minutes seems insignificant compared to the 10,000 hours we're told we need for mastery.
Yeah.
But look closer at what the text is actually doing.
They aren't saying you will become fluent in a month. They are distinguishing between learning velocity and habit survival.
Habit survival. I like that. What does that mean?
The goal of day 6 isn't to master the entire language. The goal of day 6 is to make sure you show up for day 7. The source argues that if you mandate an hour of study, the learner profile, the busy parent, the tired executive will quit by day 3. The hurdle is just too high.
So because the bar is set at an hour, I don't do it at all. But if the bar is 15 minutes...
You can do that while you drink your coffee. You can do that on the bus. The logic is consistency beats intensity. 15 minutes every single day for a year is infinitely better than 5 hours on Sunday and then quitting because you're exhausted.
It's the difference between a crash diet and just, eating a little better every day. One you could do forever, the other one explodes in your face.
Precisely. And the source provides these practical, everyday examples of discipline that reinforce this idea of smallness. Waking up early, turning off your phone while working, creating a simple routine. These aren't earth-shattering actions, they are micro-habits.
And there is another really weird rule in here that I want to unpack. The source material explicitly says to avoid complex psychological terms and scientific explanations.
Which is funny, right? Because we are currently doing a deep dive into the psychology of this, and the source itself forbids it.
Right. Usually when we talk about habits, we get into the neuroscience, dopamine loops, the basal ganglia, all of that. Why would a guide on discipline forbid explaining how discipline works?
It's about cognitive load. If I'm trying to teach you to be disciplined and I start lecturing you on the anatomy of the brain, what am I doing? I'm giving you more information to process. I'm making the task heavier.
Yeah, honestly, sometimes reading about how to learn is just a really sophisticated form of procrastination.
Oh, absolutely. We love to research the perfect method so we don't have to actually do the work. By keeping the language simple, easy English and avoiding the science, they are removing barriers. They're saying, don't think about the theory, just do the small thing.
Just turn off the phone. Just open the book. Don't psychoanalyze why you haven't opened the book yet.
Exactly. It lowers the friction.
Now, here is where it gets really interesting for me. We've talked about the tactics, the 15 minutes, the simple language.
Yeah.
But the source material dives into something much deeper. It talks about the psychology of self-promises.
Yes, this is the mindset shift that underpins everything else.
The text argues that keeping small promises to yourself isn't just about learning English. It says it increases self-respect.
That's a very powerful connection. Think about it. Every time you say, I'm going to do this, and then you don't, you are essentially breaking a contract with yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I do this all the time with the snooze button. I promise myself the night before, I'm up at 6:30. At 6:30 comes, I hit snooze until 7 point. And I start the day feeling, I don't know, a little bit like a loser.
That's it. You're proving to yourself that you are unreliable. You're proving that your word doesn't mean anything. That erodes confidence subtly over time.
Right.
But the flip side, and this is what the source emphasizes, is that small habits create big results in your character.
So when I say I will do 15 minutes of English, and I actually do it,
You get a little hit of self-respect. You realize, hey, I'm the kind of person who does what they say they will do. That builds massive confidence over time. The source links discipline directly to confidence building. It says the goal is to make the listener feel stronger, more focused, more confident.
but we have to go back to the reality of failure. Because even with the 15-minute rule, even with the nice voices of Alex and Sophia, you're going to mess up. You're going to miss a day.
And this is where the source is surprisingly gentle. It instructs the learner to forgive yourself and start again.
Forgive yourself. That is so different from the usual advice. Usually it's get back on the horse, stop being lazy. You know, a lot of shame.
Right. But shame is a terrible fuel for long-term change. The text emphasizes an emotional and encouraging approach. If you approach discipline with guilt, I'm lazy, I'm stupid, I failed again, that negative emotion actually makes it harder to restart. You start avoiding the task because it makes you feel bad about yourself.
It becomes a shame spiral.
Exactly. The Alex and Sophia approach is just, okay, you missed a day. That's human. Forgive yourself. Start again today. It's focused on the recovery, not on the crime.
That's huge. If I feel judged, I hide. If I feel supported, I show up.
Correct. And that is why the listener is explicitly told that they should feel not judged.
Okay, so let's talk application. The source material doesn't just leave this in the abstract. It has a specific call to action for the listener, a 1-week test.
Choose one small habit today. Start with something easy. Stay consistent for 1 week.
Notice the constraints there. Small, easy, 1 week. It doesn't say change your life today. It doesn't say study for 3 hours. It lowers the bar so much that you almost can't say no.
It's the foot in the door technique. The goal here, according to the text, is simply to make the listener believe they're capable. It's about shifting that internal narrative. If you can do one small thing for 7 days, you prove to yourself that you are capable of consistency. You break that old story of, I'm a quitter.
Now, before we wrap up, I have to ask you about the weirdest rule in the entire document. We saved this for the end. The source says, do not mention future episodes.
Ah, yes. The no future rule.
Why? I mean, from a podcasting perspective, that's terrible advice. You always want to tease the next episode to get people to tune in next time on English Elite. Why would they ban that?
In a normal entertainment show, sure. But remember, this is a tool for mindfulness and discipline. If we connect this to the bigger picture, where does anxiety come from?
Usually. Worrying about stuff that hasn't happened yet.
Exactly. Anxiety lives in the future. How will I ever become fluent? This is going to take years. What about the advanced exam? What if I fail?
It's like looking at the top of the mountain and realizing how far you have to go. It's paralyzing.
It is paralyzing. By explicitly forbidding the mention of future episodes, the methodology forces the learner to stay in the now. It puts blinders on the horse. The only discipline that exists is the discipline you have right now, in this moment. You can't be disciplined for tomorrow yet. You can only be disciplined for today.
That is actually really profound. So, do not mention future episodes is basically code for be here now.
It creates a container. Just focus on day 6. Just focus on this 15 minutes. Don't worry about day 100. If you take care of the days, the years will take care of themselves.
And that ties back to that simplicity mandate. Keep it simple, keep it present, keep it small.
And keep it kind.
Right. So let's pull this all together. We have a source that tells us discipline isn't a boot camp. It's a practice of self-respect. It's guided by these voices, Alex and Sophia, that are warm and forgiving, not harsh and demanding. And the strategy is to do something incredibly small, but do it every single day, regardless of how motivated you feel.
That's the summary. Progress is slow but powerful. And consistency beats intensity every single time.
I think for our listeners, specifically that learner profile we talk about, this is such a relief to hear. We often feel like if we aren't suffering, we aren't learning. But this suggests that if we aren't suffering, we might actually stick with it long enough to, actually learn.
Suffering is not a prerequisite for success. In fact, in this model, suffering is a warning sign that your routine is unsustainable. The goal is to leave the listener feeling connected and stronger, not exhausted.
So what does this mean for you listening right now? The source asks you to pick one thing, not 10 things, one thing. Maybe it's reading one page of a book. Maybe it's doing 5 push-ups. Maybe it's just drinking a glass of water when you wake up.
And commit to it for just 1 week.
Just 1 week. And if you miss a day, forgive yourself. Be like Sophia, warm and encouraging to yourself, and just start again.
And don't wait for the motivation to strike. Remember, discipline is what remains when the excitement fades.
I love that. It's such a grounded way to look at self-improvement.
Yes.
It makes it feel possible.
And that's the ultimate goal of the text. Belief in one's own capability.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. You mentioned earlier that discipline is usually seen as a punishment. We discipline children when they're bad. We discipline ourselves when we're lazy. It feels punitive.
But this text reframes it entirely.
Exactly. Based on what we've read today, discipline isn't a punishment. It's actually a form of kindness to your future self. It's keeping a promise to a friend, and that friend is you. If you viewed your to-do list tomorrow morning not as a list of chores, but as a list of small promises you're keeping to yourself to build your own self-respect, how does that change the way you wake up?
It changes everything. It turns a chore into an act of self-care.
Something to think about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
A pleasure, as always.
We'll see you next time.